Hey, how's it going? So, today I have one card. It is the Five of Pentacles. As you can see, these are the pentacles, in case you don't know. And so, this card feels very topical, coming from a United States perspective. Oh, let me interrupt myself so that you can have a look at my signs. You never know what I might say, so it's covering my basics. Okay, so yeah, this card, topical. When I first started doing this, well, by this I mean understanding how to do the divination with these. I don't know, I had to watch for a couple of years. I didn't take a course. I did buy a book, which I read most of, but it started to feel like schoolwork and I didn't like it. So I consulted. I read half of it. I'll probably finish it over time, but I feel like I didn't completely learn the way to read tarot cards, like the way, if there's such a thing as the way. But I do a little better with oracle cards. But I'm relatively still new at this. I've only been doing it a couple of years. So, you can, well, I'll tell you what, I will read you actually what it says in my little handy dandy guide. I'll tell you what it says about the Five of Pentacles. And the reason why it's topical, I don't know how you don't know this, but in the United States and elsewhere in the world, the wealthy people, the grossly wealthy, the disgustingly wealthy, the so wealthy that they're damaging, are exerting more control and influence and showing their faces too. And by showing their faces, you are also seeing their true colors. Not that that was hidden or anything, but so come on now. So here's what it says about the Five of Pentacles. The Five is symbolic of financial hardship and feeling isolated. Although it is traumatic, it is only temporary. Okay, well, define temporary, because there's a lot of us that have been not as successful as we'd like to be for, generations. It's not just the one life. It's your grandparents' life and your parents' life, and then whatever your output is, if you are into that kind of thing. Full disclosure, I wasn't. I am, well, I wasn't into doing it by myself. That's why I am childless and single. But enough about me. Well, come on now. Wow! Everything's kind of jumping out of my hands. Boy, that is not the first time that that's happened today. And, well, I did have 3 notebooks up here, but there's only one. At least my phone didn't hit the deck again. I've had the dropsy today. So, okay. Back to this. So, okay, these are the people that are isolated. I wrote something. I'm just going to read it to you. The Five of Pentacles tarot card has been on my mind. There are always different interpretations when it comes to divination. Broadly, however, the card depicts a pretty clear jumping off point for divination. A ragged pair makes their way past a prosperous-looking house of worship. Almost went with church, but that wasn't right. Thought maybe temple, but that wasn't it either. It has another, or it, I had another couple of thoughts. Like, what exactly is worshipped in the building? If one was to make a judgment based upon the building's appearance alone, one could make a couple of assessments, such as the repair, which is good, perhaps even new. Money spent on a space only inhabited on a part-time basis. The exterior looks whole and bright, its facade unblemished. Now, I'm just going to interrupt myself to say that the looking unblemished is not the same as being unblemished. And by blemished, I mean, that used to be commonly known for what an acne is, a blemish, a mark on your appearance, an unflattering mark on your appearance. The people inside this house of worship, what I feel like they worship is wealth and money and the appearance of everything all perfect and good, and you know, nothing is wrong. Like, stuff is in good repair because everything is fine. That's inside the building, though. Outside the building, the weather's inclement, and well, let me just continue. The ragged pair limps along outside, barely clad, and one clearly pained about some aspect of their condition, their expression haunted. So, that would be this female figure here. I don't know if it's the sister or the mother or what, but look at her face. Like, that is their existence. Like, they're walking in the snow. They're barely clad, like I said, but they are just getting on with it because that is their life. And then they have to, like, walk around like this and past this building, right, where you can see the lights are on. It looks warm, like the light is warm coming out of there compared to out here on the other side of the glass. It's a stark contrast. Like, obviously, the building has warmth and wealth, and the outside of the building does not. Hold on, where am I? They are shut out. Their shabbiness and indictment against them. The building mocking them and their presence in its proximity. This mocking exemplified by the stained glass window looming above and behind their heads. It depicts a tree-like structure laden with big pentacles at the ends of branches growing out from a central stalk or trunk. So, obviously I've looked at this on my decks, many other decks. The focal point in the frame of the window here is the pentacles, but what I noticed earlier that I hadn't before was there's the central stalk, and there's one at the top, and there's a branch there going out, and there's a pentacle, there's a branch there. So that's why I got like the tree-like imagery. And then there's all these leaves too that are green, also like money, like paper money. I'll continue. The paupers walk on by the display, untouched and unnoticed, for surely the inhabitants of the fine building, with the light spilling out, could spare a few alms for some shoes, and a night's shelter from the snowy outdoors. A hot meal, a warm drink, and... come on now. A cozy and dry place to spend the night. But there's no sign of them inside the church. Or, well, it's not a church. It has the look of a church, but the proceedings in there, that is not church. Unless you're worshiping money. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Where was I? The poor are on their way, regardless of the disregard, the regardless of the disregard, the psychopathy of the let them freeze, let them starve, and let them work till they drop at jobs they themselves would never take, because let's face it, work hard labor? That's for the poors. It's what they're for. The idea that they should be well compensated for their efforts, that they should also enjoy some ease and some nourishment from the fruits of their labor, is ludicrous, apparently. They don't serve it. Oh, they don't deserve it. Can't read my own writing. They don't deserve it because they are who they are. Not highborn, not worthy of value for it. An interesting position for the most out-of-touch class who thinks misfortune is never coming their way. All of it can disappear in an incredibly rapid period, though. When there's failure and loss, suddenly the sufferer becomes persona non grata, not welcome here. They will also get turned out of the church if they, are not living up to the standard, right? Okay, you need to quiet down just a little bit or you're going to get us in trouble. Got my musical friend down here, but I can't share what they're doing with you. Anyway, when there's failure and loss, suddenly the sufferer becomes persona non grata, not welcome here. Here, in the place where bad things only happen to bad people. That designation from the perspective of the psychopathic wealth class. Psychotic for their lack of empathy, their almost deliberate defiance of it, as if it's a failing, as if not to care carries value on its own. Until it doesn't, by the way. The not caring, that I'm not gonna say it has no value. You might learn something from it, but as far as it being of help or use to people, no, not really. Until the dominoes that come. Until the dominoes that comprise the wealth structure start to fall. Once the tumble begins, the momentum is difficult to halt, nor do they want it to, the onlookers. It's entertaining. They love to kick someone when they're down, especially when it's one of their own. I feel like they don't like each other. The competition and lack of empathy is at such a level that even their close relationships are transactional and impersonal, really. They love to... Okay. I feel like now's the time to mention that my inside knowledge is complete conjecture. Well, not maybe. Well, maybe it's slightly informed. But I am not of the class I'm opining on. I must be 100% on that. I'm speculating. But it's not like I haven't had interactions with rich people. I don't know how many I've had with people that are wealthy on the level that I'm talking about, which is above rich. It's grossly wealthy. It's disgusting. Those are my personal feelings on, I can't say all of them, but man, so many people with the money and the power and the generational money, they don't want to hear it, man. They do not care. Someone like me, I'm useless if I can't go work, and the money that I actually worked for that went into my Social Security and other people who actually paid the tax, I don't know how they think that... I don't know how they think I shouldn't have it, but like, it's my money. It's always my money. I always did the work for it. The work for the company got done. I did my part. I deserve my compensation. I don't deserve it to be taken away. Moving on. Gosh darn it, my cat. Every time I'm trying to do something, I swear, man, he doesn't say much, and I don't know why, but he only wants to, like, talk to me and raise his voice so I can actually hear him, the cat. When I'm in the middle of doing something, when I'm just sitting here picking my nose, he's not even here, he's ignoring me. I try to sit down and write, I got the pen, I got the notebook, I got the phone, I'm doing my thing. Nah! Anyway, let's see. To continue the imagined scenario, I know for sure this is not imagined. I want to make this clear. The people in question, they don't like to pay for stuff with their own money. I feel like they enjoy the misfortune of others, particularly when it's an uncomfortable or tragic situation. However, I think it's even the sweeter when it's one of their own. I don't think there's much real affection between them, and I think their ability to care has atrophied. When it comes to the less fortunate, they are more inclined to assist one another because we need help more often, and so we help each other. And it's a circle of reciprocity. The wealthy don't need help as desperately or as often as they can either help themselves or they can access a network and wheel and deal in a way that shelters them from harm that the poor simply don't. We don't have that. That is to be... What? What? Bridge railed? Oh man. That was to be redrailed over. Redialed? What is that? Well, anyway, the rich can, like, I think the fall down, well, it could be fast, like losing your wealth and position. It could be relatively fast, but I think having a fall within the structure of the rich, wealthy society, I think they don't want that type of person, like, amongst them. Like, if you're having some bad luck situation and you're all of a sudden needing help all the time, you may get it, but every time you need it, man, it's gonna count against you. That is what I really feel like. Because to be poor or something is like a human failing. That's wrong, but I mean, it's my opinion that it's wrong, but I think it's also the reality that it's wrong. So, let's see, where was I? That I couldn't freaking read. Oh, shoot. Where's that thing that I couldn't read? Okay. Oh! I can read it now. It's God, that's a long sentence. The wealthy don't need help as desperately or as often as they can either help themselves or they can access a network and wheel and deal in a way that shelters them from harm. The poor simply don't. We don't have that. that is to be ridiculed over. Like, when you end up in that situation where, like, things are not going your way and you need help and you have to keep going around asking people, you start to have a certain stink to you that they no likey. It's failure, and they don't want you around except to kick. Find that spot again. Okay. I feel like they party, an ongoing mobile one that work and responsibility infrequently intrudes upon. Work for them isn't the same as for you or I. If we're poor, but it is the work that gets done and lives there and lines their pockets. So work is not the same for them as it is for you or I. If we're poor, but it is the work that gets done and lines their pockets and fills the safes and offshore accounts. So, I mean, I think that was a little unclear sounding, but what I meant is you have this rich person that has all these, like, legion wealthy. I'm not just rich, wealthy, like, almost uncountable, like beyond what 10 generations could spend in their disgusting lifetimes of waste. That kind of wealth. Like, it'd be hard to put a dent in it. That's like insulation from harm in a lot of ways, but even that can come down. So, let me see if I can find my spot again. It's kind of horrifying, kind of a horrifying time where the wealthy are openly displaying their feelings for the network of people and the systems run by them on the wealthy's behalf, which they are expected to perform without complaint or schedule flexibility or proper compensation. How to conclude here? It isn't anything I can control or deflect, but I feel like the conditions are being created as more of the wealthy class become electeds and control the welfare of the vast rest of us, are steering us all onto a disastrous course. By lashing out and taking vengeance against the working class under the threshold of riches bracket. Oh, taking vengeance against the working class and the under the threshold of riches bracket. This makes no sense to me, as they need those people. Us. The same people whose years of labor have been taxed to specifically provide for our old age and infirmity. These same monies the terrible wealthy now seem to feel entitled to, as they evidently feel entitled to remove needed medical supplies, services, and other forms of care from people who can't supply it for themselves. Wow. Sorry, I have to fix this. People differently abled or homeless or hungry or the grossly wealthy don't care. Your misfortune is their entertainment, their great delight. These things couldn't be clearer today. In fact, it seems that the public, seeing their glee at finally being free to shit talk their bread and butter, is disgusting. In other words, they are not hiding it. Like, even though, say you're a Koch brother and you'd like being that wealthy and having that echelon feeling, that upper echelon feeling over the, like, everybody else in the country. You must feel pretty good about yourself, pretty better than everybody else. However, you are not the one, you personally, one guy, are not the one behind any of the levers, buttons, or sticks, you know, manning the shifts. Like, you're not doing that. Other people are, and yes, you have to pay them, because otherwise, why do it? You know, we do have that amount of choice. We don't have a lot compared to those people, but we can choose not to work for them. That, you know, we got a few things going for us. So why are you mad at us? Like, you're richer than God, you got all the stuff. Now you're in the government, you're pushing everything around. Like, why are you still mad? I don't understand. Anyway, that's not part of what I wrote. That's just some thoughts. Let's see. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Okay. There's a smuggy little saying that's found popularity. Fuffo. Fuck around and find out. It is possible we'll all experience a variety of this. Many of us have before. Before it was popular to say. Many of us haven't, though, experienced it and have been insulated, but things change. Disaster can and will find a way. It can't be defied forever. People can only be pushed for so long until they can no longer. I've been calling it for a decade, and it may be longer still, until all options have been exhausted. The fatigue has long since set in, yet we still have to be forced to the point of no other option, but the willingness to, as a whole, the entire workforce must all agree to combine in a nationwide walkout. A grand scale, extended show of force. And what I mean by that is, we recently, on the 28th of February, had a blackout day where you didn't shop at the big corporations, and I was like, a day may screw them up for a day. If everybody just goes right back to it, it's a negligible loss. It's a pretty weak statement, in my opinion. If we're going to do things like have strikes and walkouts, a level of preparation has to be laid down prior to that event. So if you're planning on a 2-week boycott, I always keep the Selma bus boycott back in the 60s on my mind, because those people in Selma, it was Alabama, Georgia, ooh, I'm sorry, one of those, Southern state civil rights era was sort of in the midst of being crafted, and a lot of sorrow and sadness, like terrible things took place. Lots of lynchings, kidnappings, lots of assaults. You know, I mean, it still goes on, but it was at a time where the nation, the white nation, just felt like we can do anything to these people and it's fine. And they did, and it was like, as for them, it was fine. They didn't have to really suffer repercussions, or if they did, they were like an act, you know, like, just show up, and then you showed up and you're all good. Like, you're not going to go to jail. Like, their comfort was provided for. The people getting hosed down and bitten by dogs and the crap beaten out of them by nightclubs, I wouldn't say they were fine after or during. So, things came to a head, and the way that the people made the statement, the black people made their statement, was to boycott using the bus to get to their jobs or whatever. And so that meant that they had to come up with alternative ways to get to their jobs. And you can't just like start a strike or a walkout without preparation, because if you're not going to go to the job and get the money, then you're not going to be able to go to the store and get the etc that you need. So you have to do the groundwork. You have to lay in some stocks. You have to prepare for the future. You like put away some savings of food and money and whatever you can anticipate that you're going to need for the time that you are striking or boycotting the industry or service. So, having said that, let me continue. Oh, hell, where was I? Okay. Rights and privileges are under attack and being struck down or removed. Sometimes it does take a house falling on the collective us to rouse us to action. Unfortunately, we are not there yet. More of us must experience hardship, while those of us who remain unoffended still play the game. I feel the wait won't be long. The grossly wealthy's unreasonable anger at their perceived opponents, the working class, seems to be accelerating by the day. To me, it's calling for some reflection on their part. Not sure what they're angry at. They're still rich, aren't they? Makes me wonder if it's akin to the bizarre, marginalized minority status envy. I feel like I see it all the time. I got another one of those popular sayings for you. FOMO. Fear of missing out. It's weird, but I really feel like I see it all the time. Like, see who takes on what as cool from whence. See who takes on what as cool. From whence did the hipness originate? Let me hint you. When the Rittenhouse kid had his walk-on at the RNC a couple of years back, was the music classical, country, or Irish jig? It was not. It was very hip-hoppy. I couldn't help but notice. The blacks, for just one instance, can't do anything right except music, dance, slang, and cultural style, amongst many other things. I'm saying the wealthy, overbearing class is in their thirst to rule all, own all, and control all, is creating a USA on a descent from a first world to a third world country. They are doing everything that will compound all of the things they seem to deeply dislike about the poors and their condition. It makes no freaking sense. What I can foresee is the control, the need for it, is going to make the poors like make the poors utilize the most devastating tactic in our passive arsenal: to stop showing up, to not be on hand, to run a lot of the things that need to be done. A lot of the threats can be leveled, but the sting isn't there without the enforcers to carry them out. How do you evict anyone if no one shows up to intimidate and physically remove them? You see what I'm saying? Even the things the wealthy count on can go by the wayside. The thing to keep in mind for us all is there's more of us than there are of them. We don't have to let them push us around. So when I was saying we're not there yet, I was specifically talking about like the enforcers in particular, because I feel like they will be the last to go. Obviously, healthcare workers can't all walk off the job. Some people just need to have care 24/7. And that's another thing that, you know, these wealthy people would just let you die because they don't want to pay for it, but it's like they are not paying for it. What they have is like one less body at work. It doesn't quite hit them the same way as the person in the hospital that's like insensate, unconscious, and may never wake up again. They could have a family. They could have a mortgage, like a car, a mortgage, medical bills for their current stay in the hospital. Like, it just never ends. And the wealthy both feel like, I think it looks like they're like, good riddance. You deserve that you got sick, that happened to you. Yes, you know, you're fat, you're unhealthy, you're lazy. You know, never mind that all of the corporations' runoff and crap is in the water and the food, making you sick, making you fat, maybe making it so that your body is like, I don't know how to lose weight anymore. That part got broken by some kind of weird chemical crap that ended up in the water or something. So, yeah, I feel like the last to go is going to be the law enforcement, because they're going to hang on because I think they feel a sense of duty, but eventually it's got to penetrate even to them that you're just as expendable as the next guy. Like, there's always another former cop, veteran, ex-Mossad, whatever it is. There's going to always be another, well, maybe not always, a person to plug into that place, but you can't just burn bridges and burn other people, because we are all connected, even though we can't see the connections. Like, people want to just get rid of a fish because, you know, it's preventing them from putting a golf course where the fish lives or something stupid like that. The reason why the fish is important, it might not mean nothing to you, but that's because you don't comprehend how the fish's connection to everything else makes everything else still function. Like, it's just like any other machine or operating person. Remove a vital organ or part and it ain't gonna work right, and it's gonna fail downward because of disrepair or missing, you know, crucial piece of machinery or organ. You know, it's like, that's why it's not good to neglect someone or something that isn't you. You don't even know how important that person or thing is. You don't have to know the details, but especially if someone is going, hey, leave that alone. We need that there the way it is for a reason. And you didn't know nothing about it before. Maybe they know something you don't. Hello. But we always think we know everything better. So that is what all this card drug out of me. Like, just about an hour ago. Like, I just wrote it and boop, jumped right on. I'll tell you one thing about these people, though. In the foreground, the poors. This is their life. They survive. You know, people often talk about how we've lost the old ways and we would, like, starve to death if we had to, like, go live, like, in the woods or whatever. Like, we just don't know how to take care of ourselves, keep ourselves healthy and alive anymore. We've seen too many movies where guns are the answer to everything. But not necessarily, you know. Those have upkeep. They, you know, you gotta keep them filled with ammunition. There are other ways to do things. There always have been. Science and modernity and progress, yeah, they all happen, but maybe whatever it is that keeps this woman able to just walk around in snow barefoot, and this boy on crutches that seems to be having some kind of injury and still just motoring along, that should tell you they may look shabby and their life may look hard, and I don't know what the woman is hurting about. Could be they have a hard life, but who, if everything was taken away, do you think would survive better in like really tough circumstances? I would posit that a really wealthy person that is not even socialized to be around people and need stuff, like be in need of help, like be hurt and broken or something, maybe all of their circumstances have magically disappeared or rapidly disappeared because the insulation of being wealthy can be penetrated. Shit. Sorry. Anyway, I'm just saying, you could think that you're totally fine and everything's perfect and nothing wrong or bad could ever happen to you, and then that illusion can be just yanked away, and you know, it might be like what your life plan is how your life was meant to play out. Like in fact, everybody and everything here and now in our lives is a part of something that is meant to play out. And it is mind-blowing that, okay, I'm in my little city and all of the stuff is here, and then I am me and having my life, but there's all these other people here that live here that are having their own experience with the city and their life. And I lost my point. Why did I start saying that? Just something to do with this being able to see the scope of your life, and then also understanding that there's all these other people in your same town also having their own scope of experience in life on the same place, on the same grounds. That's like, I don't know, multi-use, multi-purpose. But it's like a macro or a microcosm of the macro world. Like, yeah, you're independently wealthy, but your wealth doesn't happen without all these other people and factors. Like, there's all these connections. The people in that building whooping it up and having a good old time. There's a saying, I thought I wrote about it in here. I guess I just went right over it and I could have missed it completely. I don't know. No, I didn't, because I remember talking about it. There's a saying, another one of those sayings, that money doesn't grow on trees, but this illustration would have you believe that that is not the case. And it's interesting that it's the window on this building where it's got the poor people locked out that could really use to be inside of what looks like a good solid building that would be warm in there. There's probably drinking going on. There's probably food, fellowship. You know, they're having a good old time singing songs. Like I said, I don't think it's a church. They may not be in there singing hymns, but I do feel like there's an element of people whooping it up, and it's sort of like a closed society situation. And in a house of worship, traditionally, the doors are not closed to the poor waifs. But this is not, like I said, this is not a church. This is not a temple. This is a house of worship. And I think what they worship is the pentacles. And they have that atrophied empathy. So, yeah, it's just like this I don't even know what to call it. I don't know what to call it, but it's a weird thing that these two sort of lifestyles could coincide against one another, with each other, and be so separate and isolated and remote from each other. But that too is like part of the plan. Trust the plan. Anyway, I guess that's all I had to say about that. Just this one card has just been like in my head for a couple of days. This card, every version of this card, okay, I'll talk about it. There you go. Thank you and good night.